Well, good morning. Welcome to another video on the channel. So today, doing something I haven't done for a hell of a long time actually, and probably because I'm not very confident at it. So trying for barbel today, barbel and chub on the feeders on the River Thames. Now, although the last trip to the Thames I had was okay, I had some perch. I'm not overly confident when it comes to trying to catch a barbel out of it. And I have been told that this stretch does produce barbel, just not very often. So if I can catch a chub, I'll be happy. If I can catch a barbel, I'll be ecstatic. But there's plenty of other fish in here as well. I've got some worms with me, and hopefully some perch as well. Oh, got a red kite flying above me, as well as a plane. It's the only bad thing about here is the planes. Oh, so let's get the kit sorted. Get it on the barrow, which is another rarity for me, but it's a hell of a walk down to the Thames with all the kit. So I thought I'd bring the barrow and see what we can catch. Right, so I'm down at the very far end. This is the swim where I had all the perch from last time. So I thought I'd start here, and I can work my way down and drop into a few swims if needed. Well, it's very bright. I need to get my Polaroids on. So yeah, it's a hell of a lot slower now. The colour's all dropped out of it. Ideal conditions really for lure fishing, not barbel fishing. I think ideally I'd like to swap them round. Barbel fishing would have been a lot better on the last trip with a bit of flow. But it is what it is. We'll see if anything's at home. We'll get set up. Looking forward to having a bit of a chill really behind the rods. Probably going to set the rods up to the left-hand side of the swim over there, only because above me is a tree, which could make things tricky. But we'll go one fairly close in front of the bush here, and then one a bit further out. Yeah. I have also got a float rod with me as well. That's going to be for sort of just dropping here and there. Probably for perch on the worm, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Right, well let's get set up, see what we can get. So tactics and bait. Both rods are going to be on feeders to start with. Got a couple of different baits to try. This is the ground bait. So that is the hot pepper army, or hot and spicy pepper army ground bait. And to go with that, on one rod I will stick a Pepper Army boilie, and in the feeder as well some Pepper Army pellets. Now, yes, I'm hedging my bets on one smell, but it smells so good. And you know, Chub and Barbel do like their pepperami type, meaty type baits. So that's going to be the main sort of bait that's going in. Then on the other rod, the worm. Good old classic worm, because that's going to kind of catch anything and hopefully save a blank. If the Barbel are not interested, then at least I could either get chub, perch, maybe even a decent roach or something like that. So I'm going to fish one rod to the left and down, sort of maybe a couple of rod lengths out, and one a bit further out than that. And we'll sort of alternate it a few times during the swim or in the swim around the place. If nothing happens, we'll move on. Quite excited now. Feeling a bit better than I did on my last session here when I had man flu. Just got a slight headache now. Although it seems to be the way at the moment. I seem to have a very busy blooming social calendar. It's not always my fault, let's put it that way. But yeah, so I've got to be gone by here. Gone out of here by about 2ish, ideally. But I'm fishing, and that's the main thing. If I can get a few hours on the bank, I'm happy. So let's get these rods in play and see if we can winkle one out. Well, both rods are out. Gone fairly close in on the first cast. I'm working my way out kind of in a fan direction. Thought I just had a knock on the right hand rod then. Maybe not. Another thing I've never done before, which I'm doing today, is I have both rods on alarms. Normally I just stick them out there and watch the tips, which I am going to do. I am watching the tips constantly, apart from when I'm looking at the camera. But it's just a little bit of security, and I'll turn the sort of sensitivity down so they're not twitching on every single thing that flows through the river, hopefully. Just yeah, just in case I am away with the fairies like I normally am, then it will at least let me know if there's a bite on. So it's time to sit back and relax. Now I'm getting a fair few nibbles on both of them, to be fair, but nothing's actually happening. And I think, obviously with the worm rod, that's bound to be just little perch, and I've just wheeled it in to check, and there's no worm on it, so I'm assuming that's going to be how it's going to be today. Little worms, no, little perch just taking the worm off. Now on the boilie rod, I'm getting a hell of a lot of little taps and bangs and stuff. Now that could just be little fish playing about with it, but that could also be another thing that the Thames is kind of known for, which is the crayfish, which is quite annoying. But both rods were fairly close in, so it's kind of where you'd expect to find the crayfish, I suppose. So I think I'm going to redo both of them, stick a new worm on. Now what I have done, or did do, is I put the worm on and then just put a small section of the little, what do you call it, float rubber over the hook to try and stop the worm from wiggling off. But that's not going to work if crayfish or little perch are just going to pull the worm off either way. But we will persist. I'm going to go out further now, and then I'll probably go out further again, and then that'll probably be it. I'll move swims after that. Because it is so, well, for the Thames anyway, I think, pretty still. I think maybe I'll move on and get a little bit closer to the weir. Right, let's get these rods repositioned. Probably have a bit of brekkie and see how it unfolds. First fish. That's exactly what I thought it was going to be. Mr. Wiggly Wobbly perch. There we go. Lovely little fish. I can't really say it's not the intended quarry. I'm using worms, so it's bloody planes. Disgorger. There we are. I've got my mat set right here, so no harm can come to the fish. But look at that, absolutely stunning little fish. Let's slip this one back, and we'll have another go with the worm. If we're going to keep getting these, I'll probably change over to a pellet. But it's a fish. Getting a little bit bigger. Look at that. Lovely little perch. Enjoying the old worm. Lovely. There must be some bigger ones down there, which is what I'm really hoping for on this rod for the next few attempts anyway. But for now, let's slip this one back and get it back out. That's literally just chowing down into my pasty. Bloody planes. Yeah, see, with the addition of that piece of rubber, it holds pretty well, considering it's had a fish, 2 fish now actually, one fell off. So no, worms ain't cheap, so I'll just leave it on there. Bit more ground bait. Sling her back out. Yeah, there was a serious amount of perch down there. That rod is now constantly going, but it's very rare that a fish is actually on the end when I get it to the bank. It's, you know, obviously very small, some of them. So I think what I'm going to do is I will give it another 10-15 minutes, then I will reel them in and go down a bit further towards the weir. See what that can bring and change tactics. I may leave the worm on there for a couple of casts. If it's exactly the same thing, then I'll switch it over and put a bigger pellet on or something like that. The only thing I didn't bring with me, which I'm absolutely gutted about, which I was supposed to buy yesterday, is some Spam. I forgot the luncheon meat, can't believe it. I was going to do a bit of rolling around with the luncheon meat, but I can't. I could roll around with a boilie, I suppose, but yeah, 10-15 minutes, and then we'll make a move further down. Right, so I've decided to set up here. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm literally just down from the weir. There's a fella fishing up to my right, depending on where I'm standing. So this is kind of as far as I can go this side of the weir. There's a couple of swims taken a bit further down, so I haven't bothered stopping anywhere in between. But it looks good. It looks good. A bit more turbulent here, so I may have to change the feeders if they don't hold bottom. But we'll get them out and we'll we'll see what's at home. I think I'll still stick with the worms on one rod for now, and then if that just becomes too chaotic, I'll switch it over to a pellet or something. But let's get the rods in. Yeah, it's pretty loud here. But if it wasn't for needing to record a video, this would be absolutely perfect. It's just so serene, it's beautiful. Oh. Got very excited then. It was just a Western Australian weed fish. So, although I've got hardly any worm left, so there must have been something down there. What I am going to do, once I've actually got both of these rods out, is set the float rod up. Have a little bash with that. Yeah, so it's a perfect location for everything other than filming. Which is a bit of a shame, but we'll persist. Hopefully this actually comes off on video and I can use it. Otherwise I'm basically just talking to myself. Well, they seem to be bouncing around quite a lot, and I think it's just from where the feeder's just not heavy enough. Once it's emptied, it just bounces around. So I'm going to attempt a bigger feeder. Now, I say attempt because I'm going from a 30 gram, sorry, which is about an ounce, over to a 90 gram, which is 3 ounces. Now, I don't know if how the barbel rods will be with a weight that amount. I think the barbel rods themselves, I think they're £2 test. I think. Yeah, £2 test scale, so they're not really light ones. So hopefully it'll be okay. I'm going to bring the other one in completely. Just fish the barbel and chub rod, and then I will float fish on the second. What I have decided to do as well, once I've fished here for a while, before I go, I'm going to take the float rod, well, everything, but use the float rod up at the swim just past the weir where I lure fished, and it looked absolutely perfect for perch. I didn't really have any, but I think I'd like to give it a go up there. Do I change the boilies? Yeah, let's give the boilies a change before we chuck that out, I think. Well, that went out okay. Does still seem to have bounced about a little bit, because it's definitely closer in than where I cast it. But I've got nothing heavier, you know. That's probably with the ground bait in there. That's probably 4 ounces. Which I don't even normally cast that much on my carp rods, let alone my barbel rods. But yeah, it went out okay. Probably only going to give it half an hour or so, I think, maybe an hour at the most. In that time, I'll set my float rod up, have a little dabble in the margins down here, and then we'll take all the kit up to a couple of swimmers along, see if anything is at home up there. The sound of the weir though is very soothing. Planes not so much, but the weir is lovely. Okay, so the float's set up. Let's give it a very small flick out. It's going to be hard to tell what's a bite. It's so sunny and windy. Near on impossible to see a bite. I'm obviously near the bottom. Well, I've hooked something that is definitely not a fish. Oh, there we go, we're out. Okay, so on that note, let's pike just literally jumped out of the water for me. Unless it was a pike I hooked. It's only a little pike, so I wouldn't have thought so. Well, not much is happening here at all. There's a man to my right who's doing a bit of lure fishing, I think. Some kind of fishing. But nothing's happening. The float was a no-go. The worm on the ledger was a no-go, or on a feeder. And the boilies are not doing anything either. So I think 10 minutes I'm going to give it. Then we'll head off up the river a little bit further. And see if anything happens up there. It's one of those videos where I think, oh, is anyone going to watch this? Not the most riveting of videos, so I do apologise for the lack of fish, but I am trying, so and that's all I can do. Well, I've arrived at the float fishing swim, or what I was hoping to be my float fishing swim, which in my video there was lure fishing here, which has got these things in it. Now, the reason why I thought this would be an absolutely brilliant lure fishing swim is to the right of this swim is a big overhanging tree, which really slowed the water down. Now, the only problem is, it's gone. So they have obviously been doing a lot of work down here, and I get it, removing snags and whatnot, so yeah, it's just a bit of a shame. But I'm going to try and fish up next to these sort of pylon things here to the right hand side and to the left hand side and see if there is any fish there, float fishing wise. Probably going to check the feeder out just over there. It's a lot slower here, so hopefully it will hold bottom, especially with a 3-ounce lead feeder on it. And see what happens for a little while. Probably only going to give it an hour, and then I've got to head off anyway, so we'll see. We'll see. But let's get the kit ready and see what happens. Well, there we go. Final swim. Feeder rod is out. Just now need to plumb the depth on this. Now I'm going to push the float up as far as I can because I know it's going to be deep. The margins, like half half a rod length out in the last swim was nearly 8 foot. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be fairly deep here. Maybe not quite as deep. Let's see if I can find where I put my plummet. Christ, bloody wasp would not leave me alone. I've just dropped a little quick change bead and can't see where it went. Anyway, so yeah, it was really deep in the last swim, so I'm assuming it's going to be similar here. There is a lot of snags in the margins, probably from falling off the tree that they've cut down by the look of it. So let's see how deep we are and what we've got out there. Yeah, it's a lot deeper than that. So that's 6, 7 foot there now. So that's dead depth there, 7 foot. Okay. Not too awkward. Let's take the plummet off. Hopefully it's fairly still. It does look it. Alright, that's the worm on. Tricky cast because it's so blooming deep. Cast it over past where I want to fish. Bring it back in. Come on, float. Sort your life out. Float is not cocking for some reason. I don't know why. That's because it's tangled. Oh, the joys of stick floats. Oh, caught my camera. Oh, there we go. See? What was your problem in the first place? Right, take 2. There we go. We are float fishing. Well, it's not happening. I haven't had a nibble on the Barbel / Chub / whatever else takes oilies in here rod. Not even a nibble on the float. Which is a shame. I really thought this was going to be the place to float fish. Maybe all the disturbance over the last week or so of having trees taken down and everything has pushed them out, pushed them away. But got a bit of a headache still. So I've decided I'm going to call that a day. And it's been beautiful. Just sat next to the river, chilling in the peace and quiet of those plane engines the whole time. But apart from that, it has been, it's beautiful. I do love to sit next to rivers. I'd much prefer to sit next to a river than a lake. Just the noise and the moving water, there's always something going on. Paddle boarders half the time, or boats. But where I'm sat, the boats and paddle boarders can't get anywhere near me anyway. But yeah, I've enjoyed myself. It's been a lovely few hours fishing. Shame there wasn't much in the way of fish, but that's why it's called fishing and not catching. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.